Hello everyone, my name is Nick Stewart and I am doing my research presentation on Wayang Kulit, which is Indonesian shadow puppetry. Next slide. So, what is it? So, it's like I said, it's shadow puppetry. So, a man behind a screen with a light behind him conducting puppets that are casting shadows on a screen. Puppeteers would speak in traditional Javanese, which was also laced with Sanskrit words. However, dialogue was not as common. It was mostly the images of the puppets and music with narration. Dialogue did occur during scenes, however, the majority of the performance was narration. Performances would start with a long opening ritual that details the arrival of the Prince Ajit Saka coming to the island of Java, bringing with him the Hanacaraka, which is a Sanskritized Javanese alphabet. So this is the story of how their written language came to be and sort of paved the way for all these different art forms, which is this prince coming to the island with this alphabet. And they would perform this at the beginning of every performance as a ritual. So unlike other styles of performance, performances would last for up to 7 hours, sometimes up to 9 even. And so there were no breaks, no intermissions, no anything. It was just performing for 9 hours straight. The repertoire that they would perform with was largely based off of the Ramayana or the Mahabharata, which were the great Hindu epics. You could sort of compare these to like the Odyssey or the Iliad in Greek mythology. And puppeteers, so the people controlling the puppets, would study the Dharma Pewayangan, which is the laws of puppetry. It was the book, or not really a book, it was more of a pamphlet that taught them the rules of being a dalong, or the person who controls the puppets. And this was sort of the only schooling they would have. You would start as a man who made the puppets, and then once you mastered the craft of making the puppets, only then could you move on to actually performing. And when you move on to performing, you were given this set of rules. Next slide.
Yep. Got it.
I don't know what the next slide is.
Come on, buddy. Here we are. It's here. It's just there we go. Sorry.
So Wayang Kulit is deeply tied to spirituality. Puppets were considered the shadows of the ancestors. So these shadows being cast on the screen had greater meaning than just a man with a puppet behind a screen. They were seen as ancestors come back to life. Objects used in performance, like puppets, carvings, and gongs, could temporarily be inhabited by spirits in the Indonesian religion. So during the performance, the dalong would be behind the screen conducting them, but to the audience, these puppets were being imbued with the spirits of their ancestors, with spirits who controlled things such as harvest and healing, other things. So it really meant a lot more than just a performance to the people watching. And spirits have their favorite performances. So people might perform certain plays to appease the spirits to help with harvest or healing. For instance, if you were having like a dodgy season, you might perform to like the rain spirit or the spirit of growing and harvest to try and help boost your harvest. Next slide. So the physical setup of what's happening. The puppeteer is known as the dalong. I think I mentioned that. He controls all the puppets, he does all the voices, and orchestrates the musicians. So it's really, there are other people helping, but it's sort of a one-man show going on behind there. He's doing the most out of anyone. The dalong sits behind the screen with the puppets, and light is emitted from a bulb or a torch that hangs over his head. And kulit literally means skin, because the puppets are originally made of leather. They were made of leather and they were slightly transparent, so when light was shown through them, colors would come through, things like that. That was done more later. Originally, they were very they weren't as see-through. Next slide. So why is it important? Why should we care? Wayang Kulit was one of the first forms of shadow puppetry ever created. It sort of paved the way. It is also very culturally important because it would bring the whole village together. Children, adults, old folks, everyone. And it was really a village experience together. Children would fall asleep because it was 7 hours long, and they would be woken up by the loud noises of the battles or the clown scenes, really the only scenes they cared about. And the whole village would sort of experience this long, epic story together. And it led to the spread of shadow puppetry kind of across the globe, because it spread from the islands in Indonesia to the rest of Asia, morphing as it went, and there were other forms of shadow puppetry being created at this time, and they all sort of pooled together. They shared bits and pieces as it went. Next slide. So movement is my my thing. I can't remember the word right now. Movement of the puppets was the single most important aspect of Wayang Kulit, because that's kind of, the Dalong was in charge of making the puppets come to life, and movement was seen as life in these performances. If an object or a puppet was not alive in the story, it did not move. If it's a prop or like a chair or something, it strictly would not move. It would stay there until the Dalong took it off of the screen or until a character moved it. The only moving parts of a performance were the characters or animals. That's it. So the ways that I practiced this, a big piece of it for me actually was building my own puppets. In building the puppets, I really got to see how they worked, how the joints manipulated and stuff like that, and I got to control how they looked, and building them was a big piece of the whole experience for me. I also watched many videos of Wayang Kulit performances, and I also watched regular, more Western shadow puppetry as well to see if I could discern the differences, to see what really made Wayang Kulit stand out from the other pieces. And then I recorded myself with the puppets. I didn't have a screen, so I sort of just had to do without a little bit. And then I practiced for friends and family to see what they thought as well. So my moment, I will be performing a shadow puppet routine sort of thing to the opening verse from The Devil Went Down to Georgia by the Charlie Daniels Band. I chose this story because it is a story. I chose the song because it's a story and it's set to music. And it features a devil, which is often seen in Wayang Kulit. And it follows the tropes of Wayang Kulit stories pretty well. It's a confrontation between a devil and a person, but there's no physical fighting, which is another piece that is pretty important to Wayang Kulit, is that physical confrontation doesn't happen all that often. Maybe one scene out of the whole 7-hour performance, because it's hard to do with shadow puppets. It's hard to make look realistic or good. It's just the setting of the scene. Also, I just kind of like the song a lot, and I wanted to do it. I think the next slide might be. Yeah, so this is where I'll do the performance.
Okay.
So give me 1 second to get sort of set up here. Oh wait. I have to actually play the song from somewhere. Oops. Give me 1 second, technical difficulties.
You're good, don't worry.
Alright. My puppet just completely fell apart. Like, all over the place.
Like.
So I guess that's the end for now. Fix that. Alright, so that was the best I could do with the situation. So the takeaway, what I got from this experience. Well, first of all, build better puppets. But really, it showed me that the world of theater is a lot more broad than I thought. This concept of a 7 or 9 hour performance was really pretty alien to me. I thought that, you know, a 3-hour show was long, but it's nothing. And it also like forced me to broaden my horizons in just researching for this. Like I saw pictures of performances that I have never even dreamed of before. Like there are performances of this that'll just put hair on your chest. You know, it's crazy. This stuff that you just wouldn't see in Western culture. And it also showed me that there are whole aspects of theater I've never experienced, such as dealing with the finicky little puppets or spending hours meticulously cutting out a single puppet. The hours that I spent trying to make one of these puppets and have it actually look like something was something I had just never gone through before in my theater experience. I think that's it. I think that's the end. Yeah.